Fantastic. I think we'll get started. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon is about online sales, and we're very excited to have Mark Francis with us today. So very excited about his presentation. I've heard a lot, so I'm very excited myself to be here. Just wanted to say, I know I've probably already said this 100 times already this afternoon, but just for those of us that are just joining us, we can see and hear you. Obviously, if you don't want to be seen or heard today, please take your cameras and your mics off, and we will be recording the session. Should you know anybody that misses it today, or if you have to jump off at the call at any point, we'll be happy to send that to your way as well. With all that said and done, Mark will be taking questions in the chat the whole way through the presentation, and then at the end he'll be doing a Q&A live, so you'll be able to ask as many questions as you like to Mark, and I'm sure there will be plenty of questions for him to sort of answer for you. So Mark, it's over to you.
I'm going to start with a story. Uspire is a relatively small business. In fact, with my team on the call now, we've got John and Amanda and myself, you've got half of the Uspire team. So we're an SME and we have to sell. And we've just sold successfully to companies in Switzerland, Canada, and Japan. And we've never met them in person. All of that selling has been done virtually and online. So it's my aim today to help you understand some of the little tricks that make a huge difference, whether you're head of your own business or you're managing a sales team, or indeed you're a salesperson yourself. And that's why I started without talking, because using visuals is massively important. Now, we chose today to use flip charts. Of course, you can use a Zoom background or a Teams background, whatever platform you use. The key message is please use visuals. And that's why I put up the 3 top tips about how to show up online. And some of them are obvious, right? The first is, can I see your face clearly? The reason that's important is because if you're going to say yes to me and my business and trust me, seeing my face as you would in person is rather crucial. And I'm going to demonstrate what I see in nearly every single Zoom or Teams meeting right now. And you'll notice it's not what you're seeing now. Because the second thing you're seeing is I'm talking at eye level with that camera. Now, I'm actually standing up and I'm quite tall. So that camera has to be propped up by a stand and 1, 2, 3 hardback books so that it's at eye level. Now, the reason I do that is because it means it looks and feels like to you that I'm looking straight at you. But here's the big challenge for all of us. It's so unnatural to do that. I've got all of your photographs below my eye level, and my every human instinct is to speak to you, your photographs. Now, if I did that, I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like. You'll see that it doesn't quite work. And that's why the last tip is speak into the camera and listen by looking at people's images. So I'm now looking at Tina as an example, and on Tina's behalf, I'd like to re-emphasize the point about the visual image. Because Tina's Staffordshire-based business is a brilliant photography business. So if you want to increase the impact of your brand, Tina's the person to speak to. But notice, I'm saying that into the camera. It's alien. I'd like to say it to Tina, who's bottom left of my screen. But don't do that, because you lose impact and you lose influence. So I'm going to show you what I see with most people. So I am going to move my screen. So forgive the jumpiness now. Okay, so this is how I see most presentations today. The background's kind of okay. It's a bit messy. It's kind of okay, but it's not giving any messages other than maybe that Mark's not very neat and tidy. My face is not fully lit, slightly in shadow because the light is over on that side. And because I'm looking at your photographs, I'm looking at Wayne at the moment. Notice Wayne, you don't know I'm looking at you, but I am. So I wanted to show you that because the difference in impact, when I readjust my set, and get my lighting right, is significant. I genuinely believe that when we sold to a major car company in Japan, having never met them, if we hadn't shown up sharp with, as it happens, their brand behind us, so we put on our background their company brand, and we looked straight into the camera, I'm not sure we would have established any trust. And if you've ever worked in Japan, if there's no trust, there's no partnership or business. So it became business critical that we did so. So I'm now turning up the light on my camera itself, the computer itself, again, brightens the image because it was getting a little bit dark. It's pretty dark outside. So I'd love to give everyone 2 minutes. And what I'd like you to do in those 2 minutes is adjust your set. That might just mean you get to camera eye level. That could be the only thing you do different, or just move it round so the window is behind you. My window is there, but because the sun is breaking through, if I had my window there, you would see sunlight coming across my face. So I've blocked it off and I'm using unnatural lights. So I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes. And all I'd like you to do is adjust your set. So in 2 minutes, I'll start speaking again. Off you go. It's really tricky if the window's behind you. It's so tricky. And if there's any chance you can swip right the way around, move the table, it makes a huge difference. If the window is your natural light, it looks brilliant. Some people can't do that because you're in cramped rooms, and I get that. All I want to do is make you unbelievably conscious about this. So if you can't affect the change in a short pace of time, don't worry. But I just want you to be conscious of it every single time. Every single time you present or try and sell, be conscious. I'd love you to use chat as well if you're set. If you're set, I'd love you to use chat just to say, what's your perspective on this subject of showing up visually very strongly, lit and eye level, all those sorts of things. What's your perspective on showing up really strongly so that the visual message is at least as strong as your verbal message? Pop in chat what you think about that, about what we've already just covered. Now, I'm conscious that we have so many different businesses and industry sectors. So what I have done here, if you can see it, let me adjust my set, is today what I'm hoping to do is to assist you, whether you're leading a technical or scientific sell, if you're in events marketing and you're trying to get the news of the event out there, personal branding, that's a lot to do with what we've just done, community connection. So the housing association honeycomb might well need to connect more often virtually with the community. So all those sorts of things. And I'm getting some nice feedback. So thank you for the feedback. Yeah, Tina, who's in the visual arts world. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially with lighting. I've seen some terrible Zoom calls, right? So you're trying to inspire a group of people and half of your face is in shadow. Just think about that. You know, it's just, it kind of, if you think about it, you think, I must not do that. The light I've got here cost me, I bought it in Europe actually, it cost me 40 euros. And it makes a huge difference. So I commend it to you if you haven't got one of those fancy lights. One of the main benefits of being well lit is that people can see your eyes, and the eyes are critical in rapport and trust. Correct. So that's big. These things are small, but vitally important. Wayne is saying, find it important. Unfortunately, not easy in my broom cupboard. It's exactly what we were saying earlier. As long as you understand the concept, when you've got more time, you can say, right, you know, how do I sort this out? And as I mentioned, one of the easiest ways to do this is to put your computer with a window behind it, because natural light is easily the best way to do it. Because one of the issues I have, of course, is that my glasses will be reflecting the light, and that's not as good as it could be. So whenever you can have this wonderful natural light, it's a great thing. So thank you for all the comments. Yes, Mark, eye-to-eye contact, treat us the same in real life. It's taken as rude in public. It's amazing, isn't that? That's a hugely important point. I'm not thinking about it, and I'm looking down at someone on the screen. So I'm looking at Helen, and I'm thinking, she looks a smart lady right now. I'm talking to Helen. Look, I'm not even looking at anyone. And actually, it's rude. It isn't intentionally rude. Of course it's not. In fact, it's natural to do that. So you're going to have to unlearn that natural tendency to look at people when you speak online. Super important. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Thanks for all the comments in chat. That's wonderful. We're going to do a little quiz. And of course, it's relevant to the topic of influencing people online. Five questions. During the pandemic, business-to-business emails have gone up 263%. So 2.5 times. And I'd like you to answer the question, how many as a percentage of those emails are being opened? So what percentage of all of the business-to-business emails are being opened? And this, of course, is an individual quiz, unless you're sitting with someone. So you can either think the answer or write it down. And then when I give it to you, give yourself a point if you're getting within 10%. If you get it exactly right, give yourself 5 points, okay? And then we'll see who's the virtual winner. Here's the answer. Number of emails opened. It's pretty shocking, isn't it? Only 1 in 3. So if you're going to have impact virtually, an email is a virtual impact, isn't it? You're not in person with people. Think about how you shape what you write in the bar at the top. What's the subject of your email? If that isn't brilliantly phrased, it won't be opened, because people have got so much to do and so many emails and Zoom calls that an email that isn't attractive in terms of content right from the start won't even be opened. So that's really important. Second question, another big one. What percentage of buyers, so if you take the simple principle of the salesperson on one side of the coin and the person buying at the other, what percentage of buyers say on survey, and this was a McKinsey survey, that they prefer virtual meetings? Not they have to, they actually prefer them, no matter what the COVID restrictions are. Please, can we continue? So what percentage of buyers say, yeah, can we keep these sessions virtual? Again, answer to yourself. If you get within 10%, score 1 point. If you get it exactly, it's 5 points. And the answer is? It's 3 out of 4. Now, this is a challenge for us if your role is in any way leading a business or selling, because naturally as a salesperson, I want to be face-to-face. I've spent my whole life selling face-to-face. I don't anywhere near as much enjoy it when we're not having a coffee and having a natter and we have to get straight down to business on a Zoom call. So I much prefer face-to-face. And so many sales teams I'm working with say to me, I'm kind of waiting. I'm not selling. I'm kind of waiting until we can get back out there. Well, if as our business had kind of waited, we would not be in business now, because all of my selling for the last year has been online. So I had to get decently good at it and embrace it, I guess. Question number 3. This is a big one. What is the average length of an online business-to-business meeting in minutes? What's the average length in minutes of a business-to-business meeting? If you get within 5 minutes, it's 1 point. If you get this exactly right, it's 5 points. Now, this is important. And it's important because face-to-face, no matter what industry you're in, this is an average. So I know that one of the team here, Mark, is in waste management. And it applies, right? No matter what the industry you're in, if it's business to business, and I'm conscious we've got some people from education here, it's different, but business to business, 17 minutes. Face to face, the average is 52 minutes. So the time you have to sell is reduced by 2/3. Now that means you've got to be much, much sharper. It means you've got to be blunt, even if it's not your natural style. You've got to be explicit, get to the point, and as you'd expect me to say, sell value and sell benefits, but do it faster. And partly the reason why these meetings are shorter is because the level and quantity of meetings is so high, the ability to stay focused and to actually like meetings online, Zoom, is diminishing the longer they last. So people are starting to say, please don't book me for more than half an hour. And if we can finish it sooner than the end, it gives me time back. And please, let's not overrun. You all know that, don't you, by your own experience? But the key message here from us is prepare for short. Now that's really tough because you have a big message to sell. And as salespeople, we prepare a wonderful presentation, loads of PowerPoint slides, and my marketing team give me brilliant slides and it's amazing, right? However, if it's going to take more than 17 minutes, be very careful because you will be losing attention more than you would face-to-face. Big one. Now, this next one is just a big number. I just felt like giving a big number. And it's what is the percentage increase that Zoom has had year on year? So the actual stats in minutes. What percentage more minutes are there in terms of Zoom use year on year? So it's a percentage increase. We're all in business here. So what percentage increase did your business have last year as opposed to the year before? That's the question in terms of Zoom. What's the increase? If you get within 500, you're going to score a point. And if you get it exactly right, you score 5 points. It basically says this is not going away, even though we might want it to. The hybrid world, which will include significant increase in the number of selling meetings online, will remain forever, whether we like it or not. And that's important. That's why this webinar is relevant to every business in every sector, in every role. Because if you're not externally facing, you're going to be internally facing. And so influencing your colleagues is just as important. And so the tips we gave earlier about showing up clearly and at eye level are vital. Some of the surveys, however, say what you wear is less important than face-to-face. And with colleagues, it's almost like, can we all be casual, please? Because we're so formal on customer meetings in some way. Can we make the internal meeting super casual, including wear whatever you want? And so that's interesting to think about as well. Final question. Microsoft Teams. How many of the top 5 companies in the world in terms of employee numbers, top 5 in the world, the highest number of employees, and I'll tell you those company names, how many of these do you think have a formal partnership agreement and contract with Microsoft Teams? How many? And here are those 5. The US military, so all of the military forces in the US, the Chinese People's Liberation Army, Walmart, the American retailer, the National Health Service in the UK, NHS, is the 4th largest employer in the world. And number 5, McDonald's. If you get this exactly right, you score 5 points. If you get within 1, I'm going to give you 3. And if you get within 2, you get 1 point. And the answer is all 5, including the Chinese People's Liberation Army. That surprised me somewhat. I thought maybe the Chinese wouldn't want a formal agreement with an American software company, but they do, because President Xi has a great relationship with Bill Gates and always has. So when Microsoft Teams first came out, Bill Gates said, President Xi, fancy this one? He said, yeah, I can see the benefits. So I hope you enjoyed the quiz. In chat, how many did you score? Let's see what everyone thought and scored in terms of our quiz. Oh, wow. Helen Cuddy's a superstar. You already knew that, Helen, but I'm just calling it out. Well done, everybody. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun. Well done. Yeah, my temptation, if I hadn't put my number up now, I'd have put some ludicrously high number above Helen's just to pretend, you know, but well done, everybody. Thanks for taking part. So I said that I was hoping to give you some top tips that you could use straight away. And do you remember this stat that says online, 17 minutes is the average? And by the way, it's coming down. 17 minutes average sales meeting online, and it's coming down. I'm going to give you an example of why this is. A very good friend of Uspire's, of those of us who work with Uspire, is a gentleman called Colonel Simon Brown. And Simon's a superb human being, but he's also, thank goodness, in charge of the rollout of the vaccines. So he's former military man, brilliant at logistics. And so when he left the army, the government said, please, Simon, can you be as good with the rollout of the vaccines as you were in managing military operations? And it's very reassuring to know that Simon's in that position. One of the things he does as a leader, as you would hope and expect, is he asks his teams, give me feedback about how we're managing this project. And his teams are logistics, NHS staff, centers that are running vaccines, military staff, clinicians, you can imagine, a huge team. And the main feedback they all gave consistently was, please, can we not have meetings as long? I know it's important, you know, organizing vaccination for a British nation is about as important as it gets, but we are physically and mentally utterly exhausted because not only are we meeting, we're also the ones giving vaccinations. And so, and this was about 6 weeks ago, the leadership team, Simon's on, made a decision. No meetings more than 10 minutes. No meetings online more than 10 minutes. If we need to meet, we meet on site and make it happen. If we need to coordinate, we coordinate through other means. But if there's a vital decision, 10 minutes and 10 minutes alone. So this point about 17 minutes to sell is probably going to reduce. So whether you're the salesperson yourself or the leader of the salesperson, have a think about how you can radically reduce the amount of blah, blah, blah. I'm going to help you. Three steps. Not 5 or 7 or fanciness, 3 steps. And they are hook, just like you're catching a fish, right? Hook, interest, and attention. Why is that important? It's important because all of us, without exception, whether that's work-related, but probably life-related, are pretty exhausted. Unless you've retired and your situation is trauma-free, we're all pretty exhausted. So if you don't hook at the start of a key meeting, you're not going to get attention. And if you don't have attention, you probably won't get a yes in that meeting to whatever you're offering. So hook is not important. It's simply critical. Now, once you've established that, you can say, here's my big idea. Your problem is, and here's our solution to that. Here's the big idea. This is what it looks like. This is how it would work. Ta-da, big idea, right? And then, so what? And I've used the words payoff. That's a bit clumsy, I suppose. But it is what's in it for the customer. Let me explain how this is better for you than what you've currently got. What is the distinct advantage compared with what you've currently got? I've got to articulate that for you to be able to say, do you know what? I think I want that. Thanks very much. So those are the 3 steps. If you don't like the wording, change the wording. You know what I mean? If you think, oh no, it's a bit blunt, isn't it? That's fine. Change the wording. Change the wording from hook to grab attention. Change the word from payoff to value proposition, if we want to use some fancy words. I don't mind what you call it, but if I'm the recipient and the customers that you have are the recipients, the sharper and more precise your structure is, the more they'll say thank you. Thank you for saving me 20 minutes today. I really appreciate it. And by the way, you've also hit my biggest pain point with your big idea. So I'm going to buy it, right? So I'm thanking you for saving me time, for being explicit and precise, and giving me something I need. So those are the big 3 steps. Now, on the webinar, what we're hoping to do is trigger your thinking to say, right, I'm going to do something with this. We don't want to spend too much time going into too much detail, but we do want to trigger your thinking about what you might do. So all I'd like to do is do a little bit more detail on the hook. Do you remember I said it's absolutely vital to hook attention and interest? So there's a couple of tips around hook. Sometimes a fact is a pretty good way to hook. And sometimes a question is a pretty good way to hook. So this is how I started. I did a little bit of showmanship, which is my way. And I didn't speak, but I beckoned you towards the fact that 93% of the message we receive as human beings is not the words. It's body language. It's how the words are said. It's pace. It's variation of tone. It's word emphasis. All of those things are more significant in receiving a message than the words themselves. So the fact is quite startling. And I also asked you a question, right? So if that is true, what do you need to do differently? So I've done a fact and a question-based hook deliberately, because what it should do, if you could see it, by the way, I was hoping you could see it. If you could see it, what it does in your brain is you start to answer the question, or you at least start to try to understand the question. You know, what's he getting at? You know, you might do that, or you might go, yeah, if that's true, what do I need to do differently? And what that's done is, because your brain pattern has changed because of my start, I've got attention and maybe intrigue. So a question or a fact gets attention and intrigue. So there's a great way to hook. There's one other way, which I am consciously using, I'm going to say more often than not, but also almost consciously every single time I sell. And that is storytelling. Telling a story. relevant to the customer. So you find a story. Now that could be something like, I was in your biggest competitor last week, and this is what they were doing. Now that's a story, right? It's a relevant story. A competitor story is relevant. Will it gain interest? Of course it will. Of course it will. You know, what were they doing? Really? Why? What happened? You know, so a competitor story, a personal story in terms of your experience, if you're a consumer of the customer you're selling to, any story that makes people think differently right at the start of your meeting. So Amanda and I have been doing a lot of work with companies on presenting with impact. And we strongly recommend storytelling. And what we are saying, stop doing, when people already know who you are, stop telling people who you are as the way you start your presentation. So I'll give you an example. Laura very kindly said, over to Mark. If you don't think about it, you go, hello, my name is Mark Francis, and I come from the Uspire Group. There's a couple of things about this, isn't it? That's hardly a hook. Hardly, isn't it? In fact, I'm beginning to think it's an anti-hook. Because number one, you probably already know that. Number two, you almost certainly don't care. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit of space of words just flying around, because that's how I've always been trained. That's how probably all of us have been trained. Introduce yourself, introduce your company, and then say something of value. Purpose, value, statement, hook, la, la, la. If you start with a story, you start with a hook. And then if you want to, you can tell them your name. They probably already know it. So we'd love to inspire you to think differently about how you start meetings online, virtual meetings, so that you bring real impact right at the start. Now, to bring that to life, we'd love you to go into small breakouts, just 8 minutes. So it's an 8-minute breakout where you share your best ideas to hook at the start of the pitch, hopefully inspired by some of my provocation, but just have a chat, because your industries are all different. So how you start will be probably subtly different. Chat with each other, and I get to see you in 8 minutes, and we'll do a debrief on that. So Lucy very kindly is queuing up those breakout rooms, and I'll repeat the task. You're going to be in small groups. You're going to talk about hooks that you might want to use, and you're going to share them with each other. It's a chat about starting great. It lasts 8 minutes. Lucy, are you queued up?
Bear with us 1 second, Mark. I'm just working it out. Is it 3 in a room, Mark?
Yes, that's Laura. Thank you. Yes.
Not a problem. Bear with me 1 second.
Yes, might be 1-4.
No, that's perfectly fine. Not a problem.
And I get to see you in about 8 minutes, everybody. Looking forward to it.
Bear with me 1 second. Oh, my computer's a bit slow. Bear with me. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hopefully that'll work. It's a bit slow today.
Well done, Laura.
Oh, it's fine. I think I've put my assistant Lucy in there, one of the rooms as well.
You haven't, I'm here.
Oh, it's fine. It's perfect. I think somebody just said in the chat, one of the ladies just said she needs to pick up to leave her son, so she's not going to go in one of the rooms.
If you need to put me in one, if there's anyone with only one person.
Just having a look now, actually.
I'll jump in.
Helen, are you there? And Helen's obviously not in the queue to join one of the breakout rooms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move one of the ladies that's on her own just into, just making sure everybody's in a room with somebody. Yeah, that's fine. There's just a couple of rooms there with just one person in, so just making sure. And that's all good.
Well done. Awesome.
Oh,
Well done. Well done.
how are you anyway?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Really good.
I'm going to be honest, I wasn't sure what to expect, Mark, but it's fantastic.
Oh, good. Thank you. Good, good. Well, Helen was very good at briefing me.
No,
Don't do that. You know what I mean?
I've done this one before, and I've got a really bad echo on.
Yeah.
And it's good.
If you've got more than 2 technical equipment, that's probably what it is, Helen.
I think the other thing as well, Laura, it's your point at the start about if you film it, it means your members can see it when they've got time, right?
Yeah, fantastic. No, honestly, I mean, we do a lot of webinars, which Helen's probably told you, and some are more engaging than others. It's probably one of the most engaging I've ever seen from a webinar, and from my point of view, that's fantastic. Probably tell from the way that I opened up, I'm very, very like you. Actually, you remind me a lot of myself.
Positive, can do.
Yeah, very much like that. So I'm very much like that anyway. So that's the way I am. So, and I think it works incredibly well. And I think it is all about tone and perception when you're trying to do these as well.
Yeah, and you know what? We're very keen not to do too many PowerPoints, because you can, and sometimes we do, but we try and avoid, because I could have put these on PowerPoints. I just think all this business about, can you see my screen? Is it up yet? You know, all of that stuff just slows momentum.
I'll tell you what else it does as well. Just noticing from watching you, actually, Mark, it actually puts more emphasis on you than it does about what's actually on the. So actually thinking about it realistically, when people obviously share their screens, actually the person that's talking then becomes very minimal. So anything they do in terms of body language, engagement, eye contact, etc., actually becomes not so much the focus. And actually that's probably should be one of the main things that we look at, is how people are actually doing that. So actually it's probably the better way to do it. I shouldn't really say that, to be honest with you, because my boss would kill me, but actually that's probably the right way to do it, to be honest. So yeah, but no, it's been, honestly, it's fantastic, Mark. It's really, really well thought out today. What we'll do as well is this bit where people are in the breakout rooms, because obviously we're recording it, we'll cut it out so that people can't hear us having this conversation, like when we do it live on the website. And we'll send you obviously a copy of this as well.
That's great. Thank you.
But I'm going to be honest with you, from what is it just this one you do, or do you do a couple of other different types of webinars?
We do loads, you know. So our specialty, our passion really is developing commercial leaders.
Yeah. So
that has quite a big spectrum, doesn't it? Because that's leadership skills, presentation skills, team building, that sort of thing. So we have a number.
I just think the way that you presented is actually the style that I like from a. So I would be happy for you to do one again if there's another one that you do. I would be happy for you to do. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're very keen to support the chamber. Yeah. So that, you know, led by Helen, we see.
Helen's been great, by the way. I feel slightly guilty, actually. Helen doesn't know this yet, but some of her emails have been going into my junk, which is not what she probably wants to hear right now, but she's probably wondering why I haven't responded to the last 4 emails that she sent me. That's probably because they've been sitting in my junk, which I found out this morning. And I've been in back-to-back meetings, which, because I'm always busy. So apologies, Helen, you don't know that, but yes, I have seen your emails now, but I think today's going really, really well. So maybe we should catch up afterwards and just check in and just, yeah, perfect. Great.
Well,
are you at the office now, are you, Mark?
No, this is home. So, and this is what I hope to inspire people, because this is just a little room. You know, if I took the charts away, it's a mess, to be honest. So it's make it work for you as a business setting, you know, because it, to an extent, is my office now. To an extent, I mean,
we're the same at the chamber. So this is probably, I've actually been in self-isolation for the past 8 days, 9 days, or whatever it is for COVID. I haven't got COVID. I've been in contact with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been doing my whole self-isolation, which is fine. It's my first day out today, and I've popped into the office, and I've probably been doing 1, maybe 2 days a week at the office, which actually I thought, I wasn't sure whether I would like it, but I actually love it.
We just miss it, don't we?
And I don't miss. I mean, I live sort of 40 minutes away from the office. So to me, I get either an hour's worth of pamper session in the morning where I actually get to do my hair, or I get to put a face mask on, or I get to do that extra bit of work that I wasn't able to fit in. So for me, it's a win-win situation. I'm right next to my son's school if I need to pick him up early or anything happens. So for me, it's just fantastic.
Awesome.
I hope it stays that way. I hope it doesn't go back to normality. I really hope that's not the case.
One of the things that Amanda talks about, Amanda, our colleague, is a very keen gardener. And she says that the word hybrid in gardening means you bring 2 different species together of plant, and it's a better version. And my sense is it's hybrid beyond pandemic is better. That's my sense, whether that's you're a parent of young children, or I'm a businessman that travels so much, it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
And I won't travel as much, and that's good. For lots.
Yeah, it's not just, it's good for the environment as well.
Exactly right.
I mean, my colleague that works with me, Lucy, that's on the call at the moment, she only comes in the office maybe twice. And it's nice. You appreciate when you do go in the office and you make more engagement with the colleagues that are there. And so therefore we've had some meetings today where we've just bounced ideas off each other, and it's actually been really fruitful, and probably wouldn't have been as, bubbly and exciting.
Yeah, I get that. Totally get that.
Right, let's just see how we're getting on in breakout rooms. I just want to see what time we're looking at. Oh God, I am very clever at monitoring time. So we're 30 seconds away from people.
Well done. Brilliant.
You can tell I've done 300. I think my milestone from last March is, I think this week I'm going to hit my 300th webinar.
Wow.
So,
wow, that's a lot.
A lot. Yeah, which is probably why I've aged in like a year, probably about 10 years.
One every working day, isn't it, Laura?
Yeah.
In terms of working days, that's at least one every single working day. Brutal.
Yeah. We had one this morning. We had one yesterday afternoon. We didn't have one yesterday morning, but the morning before we had one, and then obviously we have all the forums, etc. So, they're giving them 60 seconds just to leave the breakout room. We'll start coming back in now.
What's your experience on Q&As? Do you tend to get a lot, or is it just a couple?
Sometimes we get a lot. I suppose it just depends. You've had quite a lot of engagement, so I imagine that there'll be quite a bit of Q&A coming out of this. I could be surprised. I am regularly surprised, but I'd be very surprised not to see a decent Q&A today. And I think everybody's coming back slowly but surely.
Back in the room. Julia, excellent setup. Well done, excellent. Looks like you and I are having a cup of tea in a room.
Well, you know what? I completely freaked out the other day when somebody had a Google. Was it Laura? It was you I was speaking to on a Google meeting. And I've never had one of those before. And I got in there, I was like, oh my God, where are my backgrounds? What's happening? This is actually my background. This is my kitchen. So the light is very good, which is why I work in here.
It's great. It's great. And as I said, it looks like you and I are having a cup of tea in your kitchen, and that's the way it should be, because then it feels personable. So it's spot on. Well done. Well done. Welcome back, everybody. I'd love to get some feedback about in the discussion, because it's you're sharing ideas. Was there anything that you think would be worth sharing in terms of, we had an idea for a hook and it's this? So it's really for anyone, if you'd like to share one of the hooks you came up with or a perspective.
Well, I'll start then. Our business is in technology, communications, voice systems, IT. So very much the type of sell or the communication, the hook is a real fact of following what you said, Mark, is the reduction in time and things like that. But what we thought was we can come up with like the generic, there's less time on meetings, etc. But what we'll do is we'll go into the company records and actually look at the expense claims from last year to this year to see the actual mileage reduction. Because we record how long people are on phones, we can actually pull out those statistics and actually see. So the hook will be, did you know our company, which is called Ionics, has done this year, these last 12 months?
Yeah, fantastic. Love that. It's just exactly right. You know, just did you know that? You know, is a great way. And then here comes the surprising, insightful fact. Brilliant. And you work with Rebecca, don't you?
Yeah.
So this is about sharing it across Ionics as well. Some of the key messages you take out, share them beyond, because that's, you know, that's a good way to remember your own learning, is to educate someone else. Yeah. Brilliant, Graham. Thank you. Brilliant. Well done.
No, it was Rebecca, not me.
Was it Rebecca? There you go.
For those who know, that's very true.
I'm happy to share.
Yes, please, Louise.
Okay, so we're a small company, SME business, based in Lichfield. We're digital surveyors. So a fact about UK surveyors is, did you know that UK surveyors produced a virtual tour of Lichfield Cathedral, and within 48 hours had around 5,000 hits.
Wow, that's just so cool. And do you know what? One of the things you did, and I'm calling this out for everyone else, Louise, the pace with which you did that was brilliant, because I'm getting more and more intrigued, right? You know, did you know, right, what's coming, right? It's so tempting to go fast, you know. Did you know that Lichfield, you can do an automatic tour? Didn't know that, did you? It's like nothing landed, but your pace was beautiful. So well done. It's lovely. I love the did you know. You know, Graham did the same. It's just great. You know, it makes you say, I didn't know and I want to know. It's perfect hook. Well done.
Thank you.
Helen, you can tell me no, but as you smashed the quiz, what's your reflection on the chat you've just had?
Really nice conversation, and I'm sure Tina will be able to tell you herself. We've kind of discussed the fact that we talked about what's relevant now, right now, and to actually change the narrative as we develop to understand what our world is going through and how business is developing in the future. So it's about changing the narrative as regular as Boris's announcements, really. So and I think one of the things is making it very relevant for now, and making it very relevant to whoever is the buyer in front of you at that moment, and making sure you've really got your research sorted so the story is really relevant to them. So that's really where we were. And I think Tina can probably pick up with something that she's hopefully going to go out with next week.
Oh, yeah. Come on, Tina.
So I mainly photograph businesses and help them tell their story. So that's another hook altogether. But last week I launched some family photo shoots, and I launched it as family photo shoots. But actually, the hook would be guaranteed holiday family photo shoots. Because at the moment, you can't, are you going to go on holiday? Who knows? But you can guarantee have a family style holiday photo shoot that I'm planning for June. So that would be my hook.
That's sensational, because your point, Helen, is so valid. Whether it's in your email title or in your messaging or whatever it is, make it totally relevant to right now. And people will be intrigued by that. Let me give you one. And it was inspired by you, Helen. Why do you think the Chinese are really upset with Britain in terms of their travel policy? It's a question to everybody. Why do you think the Chinese are particularly upset with Britain's travel policy? I'll tell you. They feel as though we love India, and because we love India, we've been welcoming in flights for a long time, because we got a good affinity with India. But we don't love China, so they're not allowed to come. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's very prevalent to now, given the variants and things like that. But that's just fascinating, isn't it? That's cultural to an extent. I think it's historical as well in terms of relationships. But in my experience, and we work in China, I don't think there's a safer place to be in terms of COVID. They are so unbelievably strict about everything. A good friend of ours who works with Spire, called Jake, said when they quarantine, they're not allowed to leave the room in the house that they're in, because they might give it to someone else in the house. So they couldn't be more strict about COVID, but we're not going to let them in because we don't trust the Chinese. It's amazing, isn't it? So I commend you to do exactly what Helen and Tina have just done there. A little change of one or two words is grabbing attention in a fundamentally different way. And that's a hook at the start, like we said. So Amanda, can I just ask you on reflection, because you were in the groups, but also you've heard the whole session. What other insights would you like to share with everyone?
So one of the things that we found the easiest in our group, I was in a group with Wayne and Julia, and one of the things we found easiest was find a fact.
Yeah. Because
actually we've got so many brilliant facts. Wayne, yours was about the amount that packaging's gone up, raw materials has gone up. You know, Julia's was around the psychological blocks that salespeople have is not dissimilar to some of the stuff that we've been talking about. And that was really easy. The bit that's a little bit more difficult is thinking about story. And it is absolutely my favorite. It's absolutely my favorite. I don't know whether you guys are on LinkedIn, but whenever there's a story comes up on LinkedIn, I read it. Whenever I tell a story, I get the most engagement and most people saying, hi, how you doing? Love the story. And therefore it is absolutely, I think it's critical to learn stories. Yeah, that's been our go-to book in the last year, hasn't it, Mark?
Yeah.
I popped that in the chat earlier. A story that's not about you and is not about your product overtly is ideal. So I was with a customer last week who had an issue with the sales teams, had an issue with the sales teams in terms of virtual impact. And one of the things they said was, so you start to tell the story. We've actually got a storytelling template that we could send out to Mark, we could send out to the team later, but it's kind of, the hero's journey, that's the kind of story that people want to hear, and they're used to it, and psychologically they're listening for what's the moral of this story then? Maybe I can have some of that, so yeah, the story for me is critical. I've got one other tip, and you'll see that Mark is super good at this now. We weren't so good this time last year, me neither, and that is have a jumper or a top which is a different color to your background. It's just a really top tip, but it works a treat. Have a jumper or a top that's a different color to your background.
Thanks, Amanda. It doesn't have to be bright orange, by the way.
No, preferably not. Yeah.
So team, I'm conscious of everyone's time. If there are any questions, please ask them, but also I'd like you just to think, for you personally, as a leader and salesperson, what's your one big takeaway action? What are you going to do specifically? You probably already decided, but make sure there's one so that the time you've committed brings value to you. So just want you to reflect on that. Do something with what you've learned, whatever that is. So if there are any questions, please ask. If you need to leave, totally understand. Our purpose was to provoke and inspire, and I really hope we've done that for you today. Thank you so much for giving up your time to listen to us. Thank you.